Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. The story I'm about to tell you is not fiction. It is a non-fiction story. Every fictional story that we see is usually has some kind of mirror on what reality is actually doing. But yeah, I had my own ideas of what I was going to do for a video, but Spirit has a way of making sure that I'm channeling the right information for you guys at the right time. I tried making this video once before and I got interrupted, and the interruption is going to end up being the part of this video. It just literally just happened. So let me start with what happened to me on Friday. And um yeah, there's a sad story, but it's also a movement into a brighter story. And if you can see it from a bigger perspective, then it's a story of love. So let me begin. Friday, I was on my way to my brother's house, and I was with my son. He had just bought a new house, and so I was going over to his place because we wanted to see it, and I was carrying a tape measure for him. But on my way there, I was followed by a police officer. Not the first time it's happened over the last 24 months or so, but he was behind me long enough where he ran my plates and then he pulled me over. I was like, why am I getting pulled over? Because I wasn't speeding. I was stuck behind a school bus. I was actually behind another police officer. And um, he came up to the window and said, "Hey, can I see your information?" And I said, "Well, is there a reason why you pulled me over?" He's like, "Well, yeah, your license is suspended." It's like, "Really? Okay." He's like, "Is there a reason why it would be suspended?" And I said, "Well, yeah, my license got suspended, you know, a while back for non-payment of child support. When I first quit my job, I went through a stretch where I couldn't afford to pay child support, and because I was pouring too much money into things that weren't serving me, to be perfectly honest, from my standpoint. And I didn't realize what was and wasn't serving me. And so you get harsh lessons on those things. Mostly it had to do with, we can go into that later, but from a higher perspective, it wasn't helping me. And he he said, "Well, how long ago was that?" I said, "Well, it was at least 18 months ago." And he's like, "All right, just get your stuff," because I didn't have a good internet connection. I couldn't pull up my insurance, gave him my license registration. And I mean, because I gave it to him immediately, he looked at the licenses. He goes, "Yeah, your license is suspended." I was like, "Okay." And so he went back, ran it, and came back and said, "Yeah, checks out. DCS suspended your license." He's like, "This is an arrestable offense, but I'm not gonna arrest you because I mean, you could see I was just going to my brother's house with my son." He's like, "Does your son have his license?" It's like, "Yeah, he can drive." And so I'm gonna cite you. And so he gave me a court date, and there was no fine because they just arrest you. They don't. If you have a suspended license, they'll just arrest you. Now, I could have argued the right to travel stuff because, driving is a commercial action and all that stuff, right? The world we live in tries to get you in a state of commerce so that they can control you because the state has every right to control commerce. That's how they exist. If there was no commerce, there would be no state. And that will be ultimately the end result of this video. But um, getting back to the story, he let us go, like, and then my son drove us to my brother's house. So, in the world of public opinion, how will it ever make sense to restrict somebody's ability to make money if they don't have enough, right? The courts in our world here are thinking that if you don't have enough money, you can't support your children. And in the world that we've created, that's true and not true. It's true if you believe it, but it's not true if you don't. Everything is according to belief because love is what really supports us. not some exterior attachment. The love that we show for one another and how we support one another and build each other up and heal and speak words of healing and support for one another. So, yeah, right. I spent 3 days in jail during that time. And at the time, you have to, and this is how courts work. If you guys don't really understand it or you do understand it, as soon as the judge passes judgment, he puts something in front of you, which is a bond. It has a maturity date. It's a promise to pay. I promise to pay X amount of days in jail. And then there's a monetary assignment for that bond. That's how you get out of jail. Somebody pays your bond, your debt. You have to sign it. You have to agree that you have debt. It's a form of self-judgment. The judge tries to convince you that you owe them money, and then you sign it. And as soon as you sign it, so what do you do if you don't sign it? Well, more than likely, they're probably just going to throw you in jail anyway for being um, uh, for in contest with the court. But that's why you've seen like you see whole groups of people in the past that have understood the system just go to war with it, right? I'm a free man on the land, right? But I mean, the last thing you want to do is start speaking from a place that you're really not aware of. You know, we have to honor the systems that we've created, but we also have to understand what we're creating. And it comes at a very deep level. And this is where it comes from a very deep spiritual level. Because if you hold yourself in debt for anything, then you'll hold somebody else in debt. You'll hold somebody else in debt for your time. You'll hold somebody else in debt for something because, and usually it's because you're holding yourself in debt. All your debts have been paid as long as you understand that. There isn't anything in debt. You can, if you're living in the past in any way, you're not in the present. The only way to be in debt is by living in the past. So your point of reference is a little bit skewed. Now let's go back into why my first video got interrupted. I had someone call me expressing themselves as a marketer and being in connection from somebody that had contacted me in the past about, oh, I'd say 5 months ago, and I bought this hook, line, and sinker. Somebody expressed themselves, and I still don't know if what they were offering was actually true or not. From the outcome of what happened here, I would say that it probably wasn't. I had an offer for somebody to market my book. I mean, to sign as a, a publishing and signing agent to pitch my book to major publishers. And after they did that, they supposedly came back with me for a couple offers. One, which I said, yeah, that's great. I'll accept that one. But they had conditions, of course. And the conditions were to get my book relicensed and re-edited into their format, and then buy uh, a book insurance so that I could finish the contract with the major publisher. And then I signed an intent form for the major publisher, right? Never really panned out. And I heard less and less from them over time. Paid money to get my book, my first book, There Is Only One Heart, republished, and then bought book insurance. Don't know if the book insurance is valid or if it was even, it took like a couple weeks to get it. I don't know. The phone call was from somebody that was supposedly connected to that book agent or the signing agent and informed me that he had just gotten in a major accident and was undergoing brain surgery. You don't wish that on anybody, right? You don't want anybody to go through something like that. It's terrible. But the only thing that makes sense to me, and then what my gut tells me, is that you'll create if you're lying to people and you're lying to people to get money and you're holding somebody else in debt, eventually that debt creeps up and causes harm to yourself, especially if the person that you're harming has pure intent for you, especially. Because, and that's why pure intent and love is so powerful. And a lot of times we don't even realize how powerful it is. But if we're holding anybody else in debt, we're unconsciously holding ourselves in debt. We're not forgiving ourselves for something that we didn't understand, right? And we really just didn't understand it. So you'll see the world around you as conflicted, or, and it does, it goes through varying states of conflict all the way up. And that's the only way that it can exist is if it's in conflict with itself in some way. And that conflict just means a difference in potential between 2 points. The reality is all of it is interconnected in space-time and just is coming from one point. And that's why it looks the way it does. That's why everything has a heart that comes from it and goes back to it. But if you're coming back to it on the bottom side, it's all in darkness. Those are your roots. It's the trees and the fall picture back here. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But if you're in darkness, you can't see the light yet. And so the way that you're blooming, and if you are blooming, you can bloom in darkness and you can bloom in various states of darkness. But when you finally bloom into the light and you can see the whole picture for what it is, everything grows in darkness. Then it gives you compassion for people that are in darkness, that are holding themselves in debt. It's that animal nature where you're viewing something as conflicted. But when you look at it closely and you really look at it, it's just a point growing in both directions forever. And so when we look at ourselves, we've got on an evolutionary scale, our heart is starting to elevate above the earth. The We're no longer crawling on our four legs anymore or swimming in the sea, or we're starting to elevate. Our heart is starting up. If you look at older primates, they're still a little bent over, right? Kind of like man, because their heart isn't elevating. They're not starting to stand upright, where your heart's starting to like this, because your heart has all the knowledge of the entire universe. But if your mind is connected to what you can only see, then there's a negative attachment to the lower chakras, right? The stuff that's coming from the things that are being from the non-physical, right? My creation circuit, all of our creation circuits are all non-physical. My words, from the heart, the mouth speaks, and then goes through your third eye chakra. What you're envisioning, if you're the way you're envisioning is only concerned about the things you can feel, taste, and touch or see, then it's pulling your heart down. If you're only concerned about, right? And so because it gets pulled down, in order for you to keep getting more of that stuff that you can see, you have to kind of place it in debt. You have to, like, it's in some state of good or bad, good or evil. It's what kicks you out of the garden. You can no longer, because when you're holding yourself in debt, it doesn't free you up to be genuine and love people and give them words of encouragement, because it's like there's nothing wrong with you. All you have to do is blossom and use your imagination and create whatever you want to create. And what you're creating is always going to be from a place, when you understand it, from a place of surrender to make everything around you grow, because that's how everything's connected. Everything that you see, imagine that all of creation is a bunch of round balls, where the center point of each round ball is instantaneously connected in time space, and the way it's connected is in the shape of that round ball. It's like a tree, right? Just something that's a structure that's going out and has roots and then has a field of energy around it. And the way that energy, so the field of energy, you only have access to the emotional states of your own understanding, because the structure moves energy. Right? A lower life form that has a less evolved structure only has access to a certain available intuition of the field and only impacts its environment according to that, what it's able to move for information and energy. You can't divide the two. And your ability to create new information that is presently unavailable is your ability to surrender to the heart space and then make everything blossom. And when you can create your own emotional states and understand that that's what creation is, that's how divine healing works, where we're healing each other. Because we want to see, when we say each other grow, it's just yourself, because it's all you. So if you ever place yourself in the way of something else growing, you're unconsciously inhibiting its growth, which is why money is so bad. Or not bad, it's just a restrictive to growth. And it's all part of the natural process. In order for us to grow together and increase the number of cycles so that we pop off into a higher dimension, you got to get rid of that stuff. Any kind of means of exchange means you're holding somebody else in debt, which means you're holding yourself in debt. You're just tying yourself to the past, and it doesn't allow your heart to go up and ascend in life form energy. Um, I hope this makes sense for you guys. So, the fall is a time when the leaves fall to the ground, the old growth dies, and then it becomes nutrients for the soil. And so during the wintertime, the roots grow. They grow in darkness. But then in the springtime, it makes so that the heart, it gives nutrients to the heart to provide for new growth. So on a grand scale, all of you guys should be connecting at your roots. Show love and compassion for one another, and then start to connect because the roots are connecting under the ground in the nutrients. And so what we're seeing in this world are people that are able to connect with their heart space and then create something new in the spring. And we'll see something this spring that we've never seen before. Every spring we'll see something that we haven't seen before. But in the past, we've seen kind of a constriction because the constriction was necessary to get people to not focus on the external as much. It's why the coaching industry is in a severe decline because you can't pay me to unlock your heart. Only you can do that. And the only way that you can do that is to make sure that you're not holding yourself in debt. And then you won't hold anybody else in debt. You'll do what you're asked. And then you won't be afraid to ask. And so a lot of this video is me always asking, for anything from you, just to maybe connect with me. And if you decide you want to create something together, that would be awesome. But this whole world, right, is trying to learn that lesson. And we as a society, and once we understand these simple principles that are deep spiritual facts, to start moving out of systems of debt and slavery. Because, and it was written this way in the Bible for that reason, right? The slave is just somebody in bondage, blind. You're just blinded. You can't see. If you hold yourself in debt, then you'll put yourself in bondage and blame yourself if you're carrying any kind of guilt, anything like that. You have nothing to be guilty of. And what you have to create is unique to you and beautiful to you. But it become more beautiful as you let go of these things down here. And so I'm really excited to become more beautiful, right? I've become more beautiful over time, just like you guys. Right? I'm not any different than anybody else. And yeah. Anyway, I just I had another message and I was going to talk about growth and I kind of fit it into the story. But, when we see people suffer, we don't want, there's a part of us that doesn't want that to happen. But the reality is there's nothing we can do. You can't carry other people's burdens. And if you try, then it pulls you into the past and debt. It just does. There's nothing, that's how nature works. And eventually we'll have to leave the system because you're not going to initially tell people, you guys are free of debt. Who's going to buy that, right? Most of the population is not going to go for that. There's only going to be a select few of us who understand these principles. And then that system, and then by getting out of it, that system will start dying quick. It'll escalate the cycles. It'll escalate the cycles for our own growth, and it'll escalate the cycles of the death of that system because it'll start feeding off of itself in a more profound way, especially when they inject more money into it or try to create something new to keep that system alive. So it's just centralized power. It'll kill itself, feed on itself to death. And then there will be beauty and there will be horror. There's a lot of profound messages in some of the movies that we've seen recently, and they're all just prophetic words that are actually really close to what is going on. And if you can see it from a higher perspective and you can see the bigger picture, it's very thought provoking and makes you really happy to be alive. And you can see the beauty in everything. Because in reality, is it any more beautiful? Is fall less beautiful than the spring? I don't think so. And our own lives, it will always be dying to some old version of ourselves and growing into something new. But if we understand that the only limiting factor to our own growth is our heart being connected to anything that's connected below it, right? Any idea of what we should or shouldn't be receiving, then that sucker's just going to go boing straight up. Especially when you understand that concept and you can connect together and then start creating things together and not be negatively attached to it. Then you can experience the whole thing together. Most beautiful cities and things that you can't, I mean, I've seen it in my mind's eye and it's there. And no sickness or death because your heart's free. The only thing that kills your heart is when it's attached or it's in a state of fear or anxiety. It has some undelusional view of the future. Then you'll create that. That's what the horror side will be like people creating their own nightmares, right? Out of fear and anxiety. And then they'll be looking at it over there and be like, oh my God, what is going on? Right? Really make you question reality when you got a group of people that are just blossoming and growing and healing themselves and looking younger and then it'll just be like, what's going on? Ah, and then you will always, and this is something I've understood, I think I put it in one of my last videos, is that you will always be at a level to heal whatever level of darkness is on the other side. And that'll escalate as it separates until a flashover. And then you find all the old growth finally just poof falls away. And it'll all fall away internally. And then poof. Love you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this message. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. It supports me in the channel. And if there's anybody that you want to, if you have any groups, like I try to do my best to support some charities overseas. They're not charity organizations; they're just individual orphanages that take care of kids because the systems that we have in this world aren't built to support growth. And in some places, there's absolutely no support whatsoever. And so my energy is always focused on the ones that need the most. And it's people that just can't eat. So it's the hardest one. Anyway, love you guys. Have a beautiful day. And thanks again for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.